Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our webinar. Today, we have a very interesting, relevant topic that is happening in everyone's dining table. This is Reloom Foundation. I am Sherry Adeoshun, and we're going to be talking about immigration and New York City. So, we have two capable people that will be presenting, and they're going to be introducing themselves. Welcome.
Hi, so my name is Aaliyah Williams. I'm a part of the Redland Foundation. And my partner here actually looks like she may have gotten kicked off. Give me 1 second. Let me just message her real quick. But her name is Dr. Miller, and
I'm
she'll
here.
also be presenting with us tonight.
I'm
Please,
here.
sis.
Oh,
Hi.
there we go.
Welcome, everyone.
So I'm just going to start off. If can everybody see the screen? Perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
So welcome. This is Reloom's webinar. Today we're going to be discussing immigration and New York City. So in light of all of the new changes that have been happening with the administration, we thought that it might be a great idea for us to come together and empower our community just by talking about some of the things that are happening currently and the things that we've been doing, the things that we can do as a collective to try and make sure that everyone's rights are taken care of and that we're looking out for each other as a community. So Dr. Miller, if you'd like to let us know about Berlin Foundation.
Okay, so we are Reloom. Some of you may know us already. Um, we are a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering communities through impactful outreach programs focusing on health, education, and mentorship. Through these initiatives, we have cultivated a reputation as a trusted ally, removing barriers to access and fostering success for undeserved communities. So that's who we are. Now we'll tell you a little more of what we'll be talking about this evening in this webinar. So our agenda, we'll be talking about what's the current status, knowing your rights, because knowledge is indeed power in this situation. Um, in case of ICE, like a ICE agent approaching you, what you could do. Then we'll talk about the program itself and what we are here to do, how we can help you, other resources, how you can contact us, and then at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. Okay, so what is the current status? A look at the White House website shows about 10 pages of actions, and each page have about 10 different actions. So there's a lot of stuff going on since January 20. The three that stands out that we're interested in right now is these three on, what's that? You're right. Securing our borders, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, realigning the United States refugee admission. And in a nutshell, what this entails are mass deportation, targeting immigrant communities, and halting asylum seekers and refugees and the programs that support them. Now, mass deportation is not unique to this administration. Mass deportation has been under each administration for as long, for a very long time. Every president that comes in, they have a mass deportation action. The problem this time is that they're bypassing all the laws. They're bypassing the court. They may pick you up, detain you, and deport you right away with no intervention. Okay? So we need to know our rights and how to go about not being like be picked up by this administration right now. Um, Targeting our my immigrant communities, what they're doing. So the previous administration had these protective measures that the law enforcement could not go into, like the hospitals, schools, place of worship. This administration lifted all of those protections so they can go anywhere they wish and pick people up. Again, we need to know our rights, because even though we are being approached, it doesn't necessarily mean they can just do anything. And we'll get into that. Halting the asylum seekers and refugees programs. We have heard that even asylum seekers and refugees who have been vetted for months, even years, to get into the US, their programs were stopped immediately and indefinitely. So they are working very swiftly. And so it is quite important that we know exactly what we can do in these situations.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. So one thing for sure that I've heard a lot about, as all of this is happening, as we're hearing all of the issues that we're going through, there's been a lot of talk about, okay, well, can I still go to work? I still have to make my money so that I can survive while I'm here. I still have families to take care of. What are my rights in the workplace? So we compiled a list of a couple of rights that are necessary to know. That way you can protect yourself and those that are around you. You may not be an immigrant yourself, but you may know people that you work with. You may have neighbors, coworkers, friends. And I believe that it's important that we should be able to stand in agreement with them and help to protect their rights as well. So employers cannot pay workers lower or no wages at all because of immigration status. That is a lie. And be sure to enforce that right, because you do have a right to work and gain the money that you deserve for the work that you put out. You're not allowed to be harassed or made fun of at work for nationality, religious belief, attire, accent, or immigration status. You cannot be punished at work for speaking a language besides the main language of that particular office or that job. You cannot be threatened by a coworker by getting the police called on you because of your immigration status. And that's something I think is extremely important, especially at this time, for people that are allies and for immigrants themselves. If you see someone being threatened because of that, we have the right and we have the ability to step in and help that person. And I believe that we should be able to do that as well. You cannot be refused to be hired because of your nationality, religious beliefs, attire, or accent. So again, cover yourselves, do your best. If you see someone that's being picked on, that's being threatened, that's being harassed, we have the right to stand up for them as well. So we need to be equipped, not just for immigrants to know what they need to do, but for us to stand up and help along the way as well.
Okay. Also, knowing your rights in general is important. Now, it is not a crime to be undocumented and living in the US. We can be undocumented for any amount of reasons. For myself, there was a time when I had my permanent residence, but I didn't have a card because of the system, the backlog. So all I had was a letter. I'm not going to be walking around with a letter all the time. So if someone approached me, then it would kind of seem like I'm undocumented or whatever. But it's not like that. So it's not a crime. And even if you don't have permanent residence or any other form of documentation, you're not a criminal. So know that. We have a right to remain silent if approached. We don't need to answer any questions unless they have a warrant, and then we have to comply, a signed warrant, that is. We have the right to we have the right to say no, or that we do not wish to answer any questions, as I said. Refuse a search unless there is a proper signed warrant, and we have a copy of that to show you. We have a right to contact an attorney if detained. And we have some resources if you, well, for persons, for low-income families who may not be able to hire an attorney. They have legal and other attorney and other advice that you can get. So we have some information for you in that case. We have a right to refuse to sign any document without advice from an attorney. So know your rights in these situations.
Okay, so let's talk about what we should do if we are approached by an ICE agent in public. Now, this can go two different ways because ICE agents do have the ability now to go into sanctuary areas, to go into the workplace, to stop you at a parking garage or at a grocery store. They do have the ability to come into the home, but they must have a signed warrant, and we'll look at that on the next slide. The first thing to do, stay calm. Don't try to panic, don't scream, don't try to run, don't try to resist, stay calm. That will also give kind of I'm trying to find the correct word. If you stay calm, then it keeps the situation at a lower level than it could escalate to. And that will help to keep everyone safe around you as well as yourself. Before you confirm, one thing to know about ICE is that they're usually looking for a particular person. They don't usually have warrants that have several names or they're just going in to scoop up everybody. There is a particular person that they are looking for. So they may approach and they may just call out your name. Don't look, don't confirm that's your name. Don't confirm that it's you. If they come up to you and they start asking questions, the first thing you should say is, am I free to go? If the answer is yes, then you're allowed to say, I do not wish to speak with you right now, and you can walk away and nobody can't say anything. If you do answer by your name, then they do have clause to begin the detention and whatnot. So try not to say your name, try not to be spoken to by anybody, just ignore as best as possible. If they say, no, you do not have a right, you're not free to go, then the first thing you should say is, I wish to use my right to remain silent, and I want to speak to a lawyer. They are not allowed to force you to speak. They're not allowed to force you to not get your call, not have legal action to help you. And then do your best because anything that you say will be used against you. So if you're like, oh, well, I live right there, that's part of it. They can use that. If you're like, oh, well, I have my papers. Okay, well, now they have to use that in a court of law. If you say, oh, well, I can show you, do your best to not give any paperwork, which is something that's also up there. Don't give them any type of documentation. Unless, of course, they have a warrant. Don't do your best to keep silent. Don't say anything. Don't have anyone speak to you because anything that's said can be used. If they start to search, say out loud, I do not consent to a search. They are not allowed to search you without that warrant. And even on the warrant, which we'll get into, there are certain protocols that they have to go through. Don't lie about your immigration status because that will definitely make it worse. So again, use that right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything to anybody. Don't hand over any documentation. So if you have your passport with you, if you have a visa, if you have your identification, anything, don't hand it over. Keep it with you unless they have a warrant and demand that it's necessary in the warrant. And then don't sign anything without legal representation. That could also be used against you further on, and you don't want to get caught in the cycle of anything. Let me think if there's anything else. Yeah, when it comes to coming into the home, that's something that's really important as well. You have the right to refuse entry. They are not allowed to just burst into your home. You have to make sure that you say, you do not have the right to come into my home. I do not give you permission to enter. You can keep the door closed because any form of allowing them to come in, even if it's like a body language or a nonverbal gesture, or that can count. So keep the door closed. You can let them know. You can ask, okay, who is it? Oh, it's ICE. I do not permit you to enter my home. make sure that everybody in the home is silent, because anybody can say anything. It could be a child that's like, oh, mom, are we going back? Nothing. Don't say anything, because it can also be used against you. If they do have a warrant, you can ask them to slip it under the door so that you can see it. Again, on the next slide, we do have a visual of that so you can see what it looks like. I do also have a picture of the two separate warrants side by side. It's a little difficult to make out, so I couldn't put it on the slide. But if you do need it, feel free to reach out. We can send that to you as well. And it documents the different locations where things are needed and necessary that make it that make the difference between which warrant is ICE and which warrant is judicial. What else is there? Yeah, so if they can't slip it under the door, tell them they can come to the window. You can see it through the window. If the warrant has a specific name, only that person has to go out. You don't have to let them into the house. And if it doesn't have a specific name, or it's not signed, or there are different things. So as a matter of fact, let me go to the next slide so I can show you that. So the first thing to do, ask if there is a warrant signed by a judge. There's a tiny sample down here, which if you would like, you can look into it. If you need a screenshot, you can feel free to do that. Or again, you can reach out to us and we can send you the link for this as well. The warrant has specific places. So they're not extremely similar looking, but for people that don't see warrants on a regular basis, you see that it's saying a name and you're kind of like, oh, okay, I guess I have a warrant, I have to, but that's not the case. You have to look for specifically the judge's name. That's important, because there is a section where it says there's a signature. Under that section, it will say the judicial name, or it will say ICE agent, agent name, and that does not count. An agent name is not a judge, so you do not have to go in that case. There are some identifiable things. Like I said, the signature at the bottom, the ICE agent and the judge are two different people, so that does not count if it is an ICE agent name rather than a judge's name. The judge will sign on the bottom, and again, usually it'll have a warrant to search a specific place or have a specific document. It will have a specific name. Those things, the specific name, that just deals with that person. The specific place, that means they can only go into that location. They're not allowed to go through the entire house. So say it says we can search in the backyard. Okay, the warrant says you can search in the backyard, you can go into the backyard. That's the only place they're allowed to go. They're not allowed to, okay, well, now we're going to go to the bedroom. Now we're going to go into the attic, because that would be a violation of that. On the warrant, it also has a specific time and day. If it's not in that time frame, or if it's blank, it does not count. If it has the wrong name, it does not count. That cannot be used against you. And again, be sure to remain silent. Use that right. It is extremely important, and a lot of people take it for granted. You don't have to say anything to anybody. You don't have to sign anything. You have a right to a lawyer. You have a right to a phone call. You have a right to ask for a bond hearing. So you don't have to get stuck even if you do have to go into the detention center. That's extremely important. And then, of course, there's a number at the bottom. If you see an ICE raid, or if you see ICE activity, you can call that number as well. Okay. Dr. Miller?
Can you put that number back on?
Oh, sure. Give me one
I'll
moment.
put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I also put in the chat a screenshot of the administrative versus the judicial warrant.
Thank you. Yes. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll move on to the next slide so Dr. Miller can tell us about the resources.
Did you get it, Sister Rose? Sister Rose, did you get the information you wanted? I don't see.
Oh, you're muted.
Where did she go? I can't see her.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I got it right away. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Okay.
I got it right away. Sorry.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Okay, Dr. Miller, if you want to speak to us about the resources.
Okay, thank you for that. Aaliyah. That was very informative. Okay, so here we have some immigration assistance information. We have the New York Office of New Americans Immigration Hotline, and the number is there. I'm going to be pasting some information in the chat. That's all the information that's here. I put everything in the chat if you'd like. So there you can specifically tell them your situation. They may have legal advice for you, and they will not judge your situation. So this is a number that can be very helpful. We have Immigration Legal Support Hotline, and that's the number right there. You can get free legal advice again. If in case you need a lawyer, we were told that the lines were very long for this, but you can call them and see how best they can fit your situation in. We have Hotline Contact Action NYC. You can call, tell them your situation again, 311, and tell them you want information about immigration. There's a what do you call it? A directory of immigration advocates at immigrationadvocates.org. They are placed all over the country. And when you go on that website, you can specifically look for persons or organization within the New York area and the New York City area. For public benefit, even though persons may not be documented, they have a right to some benefits, and they are not allowed to, usually they're not allowed to give that information to the law enforcers. They should be protected, but under this new government, we're not quite sure how that works, but previously you'd be able to get benefits using these resources here called 311, Ask for Help with your specific need, NYC Human Resources Administration Immigration Resources, and the Mayor's Office of Immigrant and Affairs. Again, the information is in the chat if you would like that. You can continue.
So the next thing we want to talk about is the program that Relume is doing currently. So we have a program we're a part of a program called Making a Connection. And that program is basically for immigrants who have been in the US for less than 5 years. If you need help with mentorship, with academic support, with career development, health and financial literacy, community integration, community education workshops, and future planning. Both I and Dr. Miller are part of this program, so we're helping to facilitate everything. As you can see on the flyer below, there's information that if you'd like to contact us for more, or you can scan the QR code. If you'd like to take a screenshot of the flyer as well, you can pass it along to those that you know. All they have to do is scan the QR code, fill it out, and we'll be able to bring whatever resources we have to them and have them participate in the situation that we're working on. The main purpose of the MAC program is to help refugees acclimate to their new communities without losing their culture. It helps provide career, financial, and educational training, as well as future planning. And this is just one of the things that we do that we want to help with the issue that's happening right now with immigration in the US in general, but in New York where we're located.
And we're looking for persons specifically between 15 and 24, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, who have been in the US for less than 5 years. Yeah. And they don't need to be refugees, they can just be immigrants, right?
Yeah. Thank you for adding that, Dr. Miller.
Yeah, and they can also be from I lost my train of thought. Yeah, they can be from different countries,
Mhm.
from Haiti, from Ukraine, from Cuba. Yeah, different. It doesn't matter. So I know Sister Rosie has some people in the shelter that she has been trying to like connect us with. We're gonna see how that will work regarding that. Because this is a 5-year program. So, and this is a program that Relum just got involved with, but it's been in existence for over 15 years. So the other organization that been really running this, but we just sort of came across it, we wrote the grant and we got selected. So it's really not a new program, but we're just new at this and we're really excited to really be able to present this to our community. You know, I want to say big thank you to our presenters, the new addition to the Relum family. Were they not good? Let's give them a round of applause. Yeah, you guys were like excellent. Oh, sorry, go ahead. They're not done. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, we just have a few more slides, sorry. So just here's the information if you'd like to contact us. We have our website, our Instagram, phone numbers, as well as the address if you need to physically come to the office. Though we are only in the office 2 days out of the week, Thursdays and Tuesdays. And then we also have our Nigerian location as well if you are not in the US currently and would like to contact us still. I'll leave that there for a second and then I'll move to the next slide. Okay. So we have a quick little Q&A section. Are there any questions? We'll do our best to answer. And if we don't have an answer, then we can look it up and we'll do our best to answer it the next time around.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I just interesting. I keep meeting with people, and two people that I know already I met with. They are, undocumented, and each one had a relationship or married to an American, and they both were physically abused. And as a result of that, the one I met in the shelter, she said to me, "I'm okay because I was physically abused, and that's going to keep me from getting deported." So that's the question I had because the woman felt so confident, and I'm thinking there might be something to that. But I just wanted to ask you that. Do you want any more information about that? And these two women have children, so that's it. Undocumented, they were physically abused. That there's some kind of a program that, I mean, I have a friend that as a result, she was physically abused. She was able to go to a city shelter, which is the most amazing thing. She got saved, and then she had a order protection. But is that a safety guard? Would you happen to know the answer to that? Is that a safety guard that they're under this, I don't know, UV visa or something? I'm not sure what they call it. Does it ring a bell to you at all?
In my knowledge, I'm not entirely sure. Sanchia, do you have any?
No, as far I don't know of that specific program, and as far as I know, the person being abused does not negate any anything if they are approached by ICE and they are able to search them and get that information that they're undocumented, they can be detained and deported. So it's best if they know their rights and keep silent. You still have to have that knowledge and do as you should in the situation because anything, if they're undocumented, they can pick them up.
So there is something that I just pulled up on Wikipedia. Yeah, most of the information are correct. It's a U visa is a United States non-immigrant visa, which is set aside for victims of crime and their immediate family members who have suffered substantial mental or physical abuse while in US and who are willing to assist law enforcement and government officials in the investigation or prosecution of the criminal activity. It permits such victims to enter or remain in US when they might not otherwise be able to do so. An advantage that comes along with the acceptance of U visa the individual will have deportation protection, which is important when they are collaborating with law enforcement. So I think the big piece about this is the person has to be willing to collaborate with law enforcement. That's a big piece from what we're just reading, Yeah, but but with this new administration, as it was said earlier, nothing is guaranteed, because some people will already be in their country before they realize whatever. Because they do, then they ask question later.
Right. They're bypassing the courts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to also share, we can take more questions, but I wanted to share a video that
Let me
somebody in my office today was talking about, that Mayor Adam made a statement, something to that effect. I've not listened to it in its entirety. I'm just gonna play it for everyone, so we're all gonna hear it together as soon as I can find where I just saw it. Oh Lord, me and my million thing open. Oh yeah, okay, there you go. Okay. Oh, you know what? I don't think I did. Let me stop sharing. I don't think I click optimize sound. You're not gonna hear the sound. Okay, let's do this again. Can you guys see it?
Mhm.
Okay, let's see what it says.
Aim at sanctuary cities that defy its immigration crackdown. Mayor Adams has issued a new directive about how and when to cooperate.
All right, Fox 5's Morgan McKay in the newsroom with more on exactly what it says. Morgan.
Steve and Natasha, this memo went out to all city agencies, including schools, hospitals, and migrant shelters. And it tells these city employees that they can allow federal immigration officers onto city property if they, quote, feel reasonably threatened. But critics argue that this flies in the face of the city's sanctuary city laws. Council Speaker Adrienne Adams calling it highly irresponsible and dangerous. So take a look at this memo. We got a copy of today. It tells city employees that they should ask immigration officers if they have a warrant and to call a city lawyer. But then the memo tells workers that they should comply with the officer's requests if they feel threatened or fear for their safety. The memo also warned that actively harboring or shielding an undocumented immigrant is a federal crime. According to Mayor Eric Adams' team, which crafted the memo, they said it is to protect city employees. President Donald Trump rescinded a Biden-era policy allowing for ICE agents to arrest migrants in areas that used to be off limits. But some are arguing that Adams' memo is confusing for workers and violates the spirit of sanctuary city laws. Council Speaker Adrienne Adams and others in this statement, quote, this updated guidance is inconsistent with city law and also exceeds the policy guidance required by local law for how city agencies should interact with non-local law enforcement. The council is considering all its legal options to reverse this appalling memo and hold the administration accountable. Adams on Wednesday commented on part of this memo when asked.
The memo was sent out before the new administration took office beforehand. And so this guidance is nothing new. Everybody may be hypersensitive right now, but we're going to constantly give our employees, 300,000 employees, the right direction so that we're never going to put them in harm's way.
So this memo is the first time we're seeing anything that provides something different, that gives ICE additional leeway and kind of advertises a way for ICE to get in if they want to. And that's what's causing the panic.
Now, Catherine Cliff from the Legal Aid Society there tells me that they are considering all options when it comes to this memo, saying it at very least violates the spirit of the sanctuary city laws. As of right now, though, I'm being told by the city and Legal Aid that there seems to have been no arrests so far at any schools or churches. Steve, Natasha?
Very well. All right. Thanks, Morgan.
Why is Amazon paying me $63,000 a month? Well, I didn't make this kind of money selling yoga